Hello everyone, and welcome to the Crown Cryptid debut, which is probably kind of weird because I've been doing this YouTube thing for a pretty long time. Debuting wasn't an online concept back when I started, okay? VTubers weren't even a speck in the wind when I started. I never really took the time to specify who I am and how I am and why I like things. Maybe you don't need to know the how I am part. If you've been to health class, you probably know that. So, welcome to the debut introduction video, or as I would like to call it, the Crown Cryptid Diary of a Wimpy Kid Do-It-Yourself book. Let's talk about me on a very basic level. My name in real life is Nick. Online, I am Crown Cryptid. I really worry that people don't know how to spell cryptid. This was probably a bad username choice, but I thought of it very quickly back in high school. But then the fact that my mascot character, which I guess we can show here, is very intentionally like a shadowy figure in the same way that the Swollen Eyeball and Invader Zim look. In general, I'm a content creator who loves animation and niche content, and I want to share my love of the weird with others. About 14 years ago or something, there weren't that many people online talking about cartoons. Back in 2013, there were maybe 2 people doing it. Now there's a lot, but people probably still only mostly watch the same like 3 people. A lot of the shows that I like aren't things that end up getting talked about. So I wanted to take the chance to start my own channel to talk about that stuff. And I've shown off my cryptid character, but now I also have another mascot character that I would like to introduce. He doesn't have a name. Like literally in my drawings of him, he's just called Guy. You're probably wondering, man, I wish that guy was talking to me right now. Here he is. I'm talking to you right now, Billy. If your name's not Billy, ignore that.
But before I talk about myself a bit more, what kind of specific content can you expect from this channel? Well, in general, like I said, I mostly make videos about cartoons and anime and other forms of animation, whether it's web shows or whatever. But I also want to start branching out to talk about video games a bit more. And typically the stuff that I like talking about is stuff that I notice other people don't really talk about. In the past, my content on YouTube was heavily edited, sometimes scripted, sometimes not scripted. I did some podcasts. But the major change I want to make for this year is the fact that now I work a full-time job, and now that TikTok has kind of rocked the entire social media environment, it's been a lot easier for me to make pretty short, unscripted videos right on my phone. So throughout this year, there's going to be a lot more YouTube short, vertical, iPhone recorded content. But along with that, I also want to put a bigger focus on being creative and making more drawing focused videos or like weird sketch things, like whatever ideas I come up with pretty much. I want to be able to do more stuff like that. You know, like my Cartoon Clash videos that were like a big skit that was cartoon characters wrestling. What is this ripped monstrosity? Just appears to be some sort of platypus. Harry the platypus! I want to be able to do more weird stuff like that. I feel like stuff like that are a lot more fun and deserving of the effort it takes. But now, let's get back to introducing myself.
You've seen my mascots, but what do I look like in real life? So, here's me. Yeah, so this is me getting my Nobel Prize. This guy doesn't look like a nerd. Isn't he supposed to be a nerd? Here's the nerdy pictures. Here's me in my 2 different Danganronpa cosplays from various conventions I've been to. So you know that I'm a cool nerd. In the second photo, I'm drinking alcohol, okay? Like we're getting a little crunk in there. But what's some more specific information you might want about me that would help you find my address? Well, I am partly Armenian and partly Italian. In the Armenian side, one side of my family is fully Armenian, so I'm like entirely 50% that basically. And I just feel like it's really rare to stumble upon Armenian people online. My family has a lot of very in-jokey Armenian words that we use all the time, so I'm sure those will probably end up slipping out in videos eventually. But did you also know that I have creatures in my possession? Oh yes, you're not ready for these absolute monstrosities. Here we go. There are my puppies. The one on the left is Tito, and the one on the right is Jerry. But one is when he is scrungly, and one is when he is Hamov. Oh, there you go, Hamov, Armenian word. Like my family says that all the time. I think it means like cute, maybe. I literally don't even know what that means. So these are my family dogs. We worked together to get them, but eventually, when I am on my own, I do want my own puppy. And the breed that I have a fondness to are Japanese chins. Someone in my family did have one, and I was like, man, that's just a little guy. So I really want one of these puppies someday. Also, I apologize if the flashing video game border is bothering you, but you know where that comes from? You know where I stole that aesthetic choice from? That's from Problem Solvers. Oh yeah, that's the kind of person I am. That's one of my very specifically weird opinions, that Problem Solvers is cool. But you want to know any of my other weird opinions? Well, here you go. I really like cartoons and anime, but I also really like video games. Wow, what a twist. He's a nerd that likes video games. But I primarily like games that are very weird, cartoon or anime adjacent games. My favorite ones tend to be ones that are just like, if you explain them to a normal person, they'd be scratching their head. And I really like creepy, cute aesthetics, which entirely comes from the fact that I grew up a major fan of Invader Zim. I also really like the chunk of chocolate that's at the bottom of those drumstick ice cream cones. Well, what do I dislike? Well, just kidding, maybe. I really don't like drama and arguments. Like, if you're ever just mindlessly scrolling, you're just gonna see all this stuff like oh, so-and-so got ran over by a steamroller, and then the president of fucking Steamroller Inc. is gonna be like, oh, but that person deserved it. It's like, oh no, the person didn't deserve it. This all this stuff, very serious stuff most of the time. But on this channel, we're gonna be quirky. So we're gonna try our best to avoid discussion of steamroller accidents. That also extends to the other point about spreading negativity, that I just want to be positive about everything. Okay, a few seconds ago I said I like problem solvers. Okay, I never want to spread negativity. I also dislike when people say that pirating content is easy. When people are like, oh, just watch that on notavirus.com. You just have to click 7 different buttons that are fake play buttons and have 400 ads pop up, and it has to buffer for 3 hours, but then you can watch it. I'll just rent it. I also dislike Windows 8. That shows you how old I am, I guess. I mean, there's absolutely a good portion of people watching my videos that have never had to interface with Windows 8 at all. You're very lucky. I am going to hide my mascot now because your eyeballs are burning holes into me. So now let's get into some of my specific favorite pieces of media. We have Invader Zim, which should be visually clear, but I also really love Adventure Time, and I'm really engrossed in the lore of that show and know way too much about it. Adventure Time and Gravity Falls were basically the only 2 shows where I was really right in the fandom as those were coming out. So those are inspirational and very social experiences to be a part of those shows. If we want to talk live action movies, I really love the Planet of the Apes reboot series. I love a lot of different anime, but my favorite studio is definitely Kyoto Animation, who have made shows like K-On!, which is there, and my absolute favorite show, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And Danganronpa, I feel like Danganronpa is the Invader Zim of anime. It's so absurd, but it has the anime touch where cool mysteries and adult humor and stuff that something like American shows don't really get to do. And I also like Ace Attorney. I knew about Ace Attorney before Danganronpa, but Danganronpa was if they took Ace Attorney and pulled out part of my brain and put it on top of Ace Attorney and then turned it into this big psycho cool weird mashup. It's so perfect for me. I have a huge variety of music that I like. Dark Cabaret is the Brains song from Billy and Mandy. Brains, I'm alive. I'll eat the brains till the zombified. That's Dark Cabaret. But my favorite music group of all time is right there at the top, Millie. They've done some songs for anime, but they also just have a lot of their own. So interestingly melancholic, but also total bangers. Their lead singer just sounds so cool. So a lot of the things on this page here are things that also really inspire me. But if we want to be really specific about people that inspire me, I mean, it's mostly people that come from the things I described on that page. But Adam McMillan created The Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy. Jonah Vasquez created Invader Zim and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Kazutaka Kodaka, who created the Danganronpa series. Kotaro Uchikoshi is another visual novel writer like Kodaka, but he created the Zero Escape series and the I, the Somnium File series. Those are also super quirky yet dark and mind-bending adventure games. I love those games. Masahiro Sakurai, Hideo Kojima, Japanese devs that have auteur-style ways of storytelling and just great visual aesthetics in their work too. Dan Salvato, the creator of Doki Doki Literature Club. Doki Doki struck such a great chord with me, and it's a lot more cerebral than people give it credit for. It's a very very genius game. Also, Alex Hirsch, creator of Gravity Falls, he speaks so often, so he was a very direct inspiration, because like I said with Gravity Falls, how the fandom was such an important thing to me, he was always interfacing with the fandom. I really, really liked the ways that he did that, like faking leaks and stuff like that. He's a total genius. And then I have to give like a little bit of a live action thing here. Edgar Wright, well, he's probably my favorite live action director. He's done Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, but my favorite movie of his is probably Shaun of the Dead. He has a really, really unique, almost cartoony style to what he does. I might be a film student, but like he's kind of the only live action director that I really am aware of and pay attention to. I mean, there's a few others realistically, but he's like definitely probably my absolute favorite. But why am I talking so much about inspirations? Well, because I like to make my own art. If you've been around the channel, you probably know that I did like some drawing streams. So here's some of my digital art. Background there is a screen cap redraw from K-On! That I did very recently, but also right next to that is another K-On! Character, but in place of Super Meat Boy. I was like, what would be a crossover that literally only I would draw? Then at the bottom there's that was an art project for a college class that I think looks really cool. So hopefully you can see all the inspirations I just described seeping into the kind of stuff that I create for myself. And I think with all that said, that concludes the Crown Cryptid do-it-yourself book/debut video. So hopefully you learned a bit about me from this, and hopefully you're excited to see what other kinds of hopefully more unhinged stuff I'm able to put onto the YouTube channel. If you have any questions, be sure to comment and start a conversation. So thank you very much for watching, and please stay tuned for more.